If you could end the Depression with a single stroke of the pen, would you do it? Well, it's just about that easy. The federal government has the power to make it happen. The Canadian Constitution gives the federal parliament total jurisdiction in respect of money and banking. So the federal government can create all of the money it wishes. Or it can do as it does now. It can borrow from its licensees, the private banks, then have to repay them, both principal and interest. Well, in this period of austerity and cutbacks and reductions in government services, you might ask, is there a better way? Well, the answer is yes. We can adopt a policy similar to the one we had between 1939 and 1974. At that time, the Bank of Canada provided the federal government with very large sums of money at near zero cost. The government spent this money into circulation, and that is what got us out of the Great Depression, and then helped finance World War II, and after the war, the great infrastructure program, the St. Lawrence Seaway, the Trans-Canada Highway, our great new airport terminals, and a host of other projects. It also allowed us to launch our healthcare program and social services, which became the envy of the world. What was actually happening was a policy where the money creation function was shared between the federal government on the one hand and the private banks on the other hand. The system worked like a charm and gave us the best years of the 20th century. Well, then in 1974, everything changed. The Bank of Canada turned its backs on its shareholders, that's us, and started taking its orders from the Bank for International Settlements in Zurich, Switzerland. The Bank for International Settlements, which is the apex of the international banking cartel, decided that the Bank of Canada, along with other central banks around the world, should stop lending money to their governments at low cost. In effect, they gave the private banks a monopoly to create money, and the governments that own the patents to create money on behalf of the people are forced to go out and borrow at current interest rates, whatever they may happen to be. Well, the result was a bonanza for the banks and a catastrophe for the people. In 1974, there was practically no debt in Canada. Now, the federal debt alone is about $600 billion. Worse, hard-pressed Canadian taxpayers have had to pay between fiscal year 1974-75 and fiscal year 2010 and 11, $1.1 trillion, that's trillion, dollars in interest on the federal debt alone. That works out to about $1,700 per person for every man and woman in the workforce, and there is no relief in sight. Our government, instead of using its power to end the recession, is negotiating a trade agreement with the European Union, which, if signed, will prevent it or any future Canadian government from operating our economy in the best interests of the Canadian people. We would be permanent slaves of the international banking cartel, the greediest, most ruthless cabal in history. It would be treason to compromise our right to create our own money and rob us of the most precious asset that any government has. The loss in monetary terms would be counted in the trillions. Even more important is the loss of freedom to manage our own affairs, which is priceless. If we lose this battle, the United States, which is now negotiating or beginning to negotiate a treaty with the European Union, would be next, because the Europeans would use the Canadian settlement as a precedent. And after that, it would be one country after another, until finally the cabal, the international cartel, would raise the flag of victory in their 40-year war against self-government. They would then impose their own unique brand of debt slavery on us all. At this stage, our only hope is to seek an injunction to prevent the federal government from committing this treason and removing all of the financial provisions from what was supposed to have been a trade treaty before it is signed. We, the Committee on Monetary and Economic Reform, COMER, will launch the action. So we need your help. Go to www.victoryfortheworld.net and follow the link to donate through PayPal. Be as generous as you can afford, and ask your friends and associates to do the same. The monetary benefits will run in the tens of thousands of dollars, but far more important, in a sense, is renewed hope to the more than 1 million young Canadians who are looking for jobs and career opportunities. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to Canada, you owe it to the world. We must stop the New World Order gang from using Canada as a guinea pig one more time. So go to www.victoryfortheworld.net now.